Hey guys, this is Rose, and today it's time to do the November wrap-up and December TBR. So I'm just going to jump right on in. The first book that I read, actually the last book that I read, I'm kind of moving backwards, in November was The Heretic's Wife. You might remember this if you saw my first video, which was a haul, a bunch of the books I picked up. This is one of them, and I'm really, really glad I did. It's a beautiful book. So this one is the story of a woman named Kate, and she was involved in the book printing business, and then her brother was taken away and interrogated, and that's sort of where we come in, is her waking up and realizing that he's been taken and being very worried about him. And then it continues on as she sort of tries to take over the business, as she gets more involved with the people printing and sending out and exporting and importing all these illegal books. And it's really, really good. It's beautifully written. You really feel for her. And I love historical fiction. I love the time period. So really recommend this one. Absolutely fantastic. The next book that I read in November, I don't actually physically have. I have it on ebook. This is my very boring cased e-reader, but I'm sure that you will know what it looks like or be aware of what it is, because it is George R. Martin's A Clash of Kings, which is the second book in the Song of Fire and Ice, Ice and Fire, Song of Ice and Fire. And I'm aware that I'm a little bit late to the party on this one, that most people have already read all of these, but that happens. You know what it's like. You have a million books and not enough time to read them all. So I've finally started reading that series properly. I have them on ebook because I decided that with big series like that, especially really good series that I know I'm going to love the whole thing, I want to wait to buy the entire series when it's done, and I can get a really beautiful box set. And for the time being, I will have them on my e-reader because it's a little bit cheaper to buy electronic ones. And these are also pretty hefty books, so taking them traveling and on the bus and stuff is not quite as convenient as having them in my little slim e-reader. It's not a whole lot to say about A Clash of Kings. It's obviously a really phenomenal book. If you have watched the show or read the books already, you kind of know everything that's in it. I find it really interesting because I'm reading the books after watching the show, which is kind of bizarre because you know what's happening, so you don't get that real excitement of being drawn into it because you know what's going to happen. But I do still really love it. I think it's very well written. I think it's hugely complex. I am enjoying that already, even in the second book. The TV show and the book are starting to diverge a little bit, and there are some things being missed out, some things being sort of washed over or changed a little bit, and I think that's really cool because I know that by the time I catch up, it's going to be completely different. We're going to be doing something totally, utterly new and different and exciting, and then it's going to be like I have a TV show and a series of books to read, and they're totally different. Yay! And I know it bugs a lot of people that the two aren't exactly the same, and I understand that, but at the same time, I really actually quite enjoy that they're different because it means that there's only a certain level of spoiler that can happen now. So I thought that was really cool. Next up, it's The Queen of the Teerling by Erica Johansson. And this one is phenomenal. It's an absolutely amazing book. It is the first in a new trilogy, and it is about a princess coming to try and take over. That makes her sound like she's fighting. She isn't. Who is rightfully being collected to come and be crowned as queen. But there's a lot of problems. There's the regent who has been holding the throne for most of her life is not overly thrilled at her reappearing. And there are several other factions, a lot of things that she doesn't know about how the kingdom is being run. So there's a whole lot of intrigue and mystery and adventure, and multiple people keep trying to kill her from different factions. And it's absolutely amazing. I sat down, I read this. It's not a small book. I read the whole thing in a night because I just couldn't put it down. And I do have a review on it, and when that review is posted, I am waiting to edit it. I will put a link down below so that you can see that. But suffice to say, it's a really, really good book. Next up, I have 3 books that I actually picked up from the library that are research for the book that I'm writing. And the book that I'm writing is about the sex industry, the stripping industry, both in the late 1940s and now. So obviously I don't know a whole lot, I don't have a lot of personal experience of burlesque clubs in the 40s, and I can't exactly just walk in and do research, so I picked up books. First one is Burlesque West. It's an exploration of the sort of the sex and the show industry in post-war Vancouver. So really specific location-wise, and not actually as good as I'd hoped it would be. I really hoped it would be phenomenal. It was done by someone who basically put it together as a study, as a research study, and you can really, really tell that. It is a very dry read, and it's divided into sections that make sense for a research study, but don't actually succeed in giving a reader or giving me anyway, a really clear picture of what was happening. And I actually was quite disappointed in this book, so a little bit sad about that. The second one, which I was much less disappointed about, is called Behind the Burly Q, and this one is by Leslie Zemeckis, which I'm probably mispronouncing. This is a similar thing. It is a companion to a documentary, and it is much more juicy, I would say. It's much more interesting. I got a much more colorful and detailed picture of what was going on. I really enjoyed this one. I would recommend this one. I haven't seen the documentary yet, but I am sure that if it's anything like the book, it's probably really cool, and I should probably watch that too. Last but not least, on the research side of things, is this. It's called Liquor, Lust, and the Law. It is a very specific book about one club actually in Vancouver, and this is about a strip club that still exists in Vancouver, and it's the history of the club right back from the beginning. And so a lot of it was not particularly relevant to the research that I'm doing, but it was still fun to read. It's got a lot of coffee table book style stuff, so big pictures and lots of quotes, and that made it a really simple read. Like, this is not something that will take you very long at all. So, if you're interested at all, especially if you are in the Northwest, then I would recommend it just kind of for fun. I didn't read a lot more books this month. I did, however, read a couple of new comic books, and I'm always going to include those because I love reading them. First one is not new at all, actually. It is the X-Men, the Uncanny XMen Dark Phoenix Saga. And just because I was at the library and I saw it and I went, I have not read this in so many years. And so I gave it a reread. It's really fun. If you're not aware of it, it's one of the most well-known X-Men storylines, I think, especially because they redid it in the first trio of movies, when Jean Grey goes essentially bat crap and blows up the world. If you watch the movie, you will remember that. So it is that story. I would say spoilers, but this is a really old book. It was really interesting to see some of the artwork because it's very, very different from how most of the comic books are drawn these days. It's just a completely different style, and it's the style that was around when I first started reading them, and so it was really cool to see it again. And finally, my last November reading is another comic book. This one is Kingsman, The Secret Service, and this is by Mark Millar, Dave Gibbons, and Matthew Vaughn. Really, really incredible team. They worked on Kick-Ass. If you've seen that movie or read that comic book, then it's an amazing movie and amazing comic book by Mark Millar, and Matthew Vaughn worked on the movie with them, and then he wrote this comic book with them, and this is actually also being turned into a movie, which is why I picked it up. It is being turned into a movie by the same name, Kingsman Secret Service, that will be out on February 13th. I actually was incredibly lucky with my day job, my writing job. I actually got to go to New York and see a preview of the movie and meet Matthew Vaughn, and it was really, really cool. So it's an amazing movie, but it's a really, really awesome book. It is definitely R-rated as far as comic books go, which is always kind of fun. And it's a book that I've passed on to a couple people now, and both times they've flicked through and read the first couple pages and gone, oh my god, what is, and it's got like a hell of a twist right at the beginning, and then they just don't stop. And it's so good. It's so fast paced. Again, it's not like, I mean, it's not a single book. It's actually a collection of 6 comic books. I just bought the collection because I like them. I think they're much more sturdy, and so I tend to buy collections a lot. And I would really recommend it. I think it's a really, really awesome book. Even if you aren't, if you're kind of into spy movies or shoot 'em ups, then I would recommend the movie as well. So that was my reading in November. I would have loved to do more. I think that's true of every month, so I'm not sure why any of us bother to say it, because isn't it always true that we would love to do more reading, and I would love to just sit and read constantly all the time, all day, every day, but then I would have to live on the street and I wouldn't be able to afford any new books. Moving on to my December to be read pile. Now, a couple of these I've already started reading. First of those is John Cleese. So anyway, this is his autobiography. This is a signed copy. Right there. I actually was able to go to a book signing, meet the man himself, get it signed. I got a second copy for a Christmas gift for someone as well. And I'm actually most of the way through it, which is quite cool. And I'm probably going to finish this within the next few days. It's really, really good. It's really funny. It's very much his voice, and that makes me really happy. Then I have another one that I'm nearly finished. And this is The Art of Learning by Josh Watkin, I think is the name. This one is another autobiography type book, but rather than just being about his life, it's got a focus on how this guy does his learning. And he was a champion chess player as a child, and then he became a champion martial artist, which is kind of a leap and really, really cool. And it's written extremely well, but it's also very interesting. It's sort of crossing over almost into the self-helpy level, because it has a lot to do with how he learns the things that he learned by becoming champion of 2 massively different disciplines, and how you can apply that. And I just found it was actually a gift, and I found it surprisingly good. So I am determined that I will finish this at some point, because I have been reading it for probably about 4 months. And I am so close to the end, and I want to get that finished. Next up, obviously, is the next one in George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire. And the next one is A Storm of Swords. So, again, I don't have that one to hold up for you. I have it on my little Kobo, and I am not sure if I'll be able to finish the whole thing, because these are pretty big books, and they're not really fast reads because, like I said before, you kind of know what's happening from the TV show, so it's not edge-of-your-seat stuff until I get past where the show has got to. But I do hope to finish that. I also really hope to read the first of one of the Star Wars books that I picked up at the library sale last month, which is, the one I decided to start with is called I, Jedi, and it is by Michael A. Stackpole. I'm really interested to read it. I think it's the one that has the least to do with the movies, with the canon, that is really off book, and I'm kind of interested about that. And I wanted to start reading one of the Star Wars books because obviously the Star Wars trailer hit last week. So I'm really excited to start reading the Star Wars books just to sort of get me in the mood. I know the movie is not out until this time next year, but I don't care. I don't care. That gives me a year to read a bunch of the books and to watch some of the stuff that I have not seen yet that is canon, like Clone Wars and the new show Star Wars Rebels. But so I'm going to start with this book. I hope it's awesome. So if I do have time, I would like to start this one. This is Lionheart by Sharon K. Penman. Another one that I talked about in the haul, and it is what it says on the tin. It's a book about Richard the Lionheart. I always like to read some historical fiction every month just because I really enjoy it. And even though it's not always 100% accurate, I do really like getting a better grasp and a better picture in my head of what was going on in different times in history. So I will let you know if I have time for that. And on the comic book front, I don't know. I kind of want to pick up some new ones, but I'm not sure what yet. I kind of want to pick up Hit Girl, which is a sort of spin-off / sequel to the Kick-Ass books that I have not read yet, and I would love to grab that, but I don't have it with me to hold up. I am also at the moment reading through the Marvel Civil War books. Civil War is something that is, again, coming to screens. I swear I don't just read things that I think are coming to screens. It's a series in which the superheroes essentially all split into two groups and have a big war. So it's really fun, and as well as the actual book where that happened, there are a whole series of books around it that tell usually the individual stories of people. So one that I've just started is the Wolverine Civil War, and it says basically what he was doing during this time period. I have a whole collection, and the next two that happen to be in line there are Heroes for Hire and House of M. And that is pretty much it. I'm going to the library later today. I'm going to pick up some more that I'm also obviously going to read this month. I'm a little bit in the mood for something kind of light and chick-litty, maybe even pick up some young adult. I don't usually read it, but I might start just for the sake of being able to discuss it. I also, as well, I was saying I don't know how much reading I'm going to get done this month because of the holidays, and it's always a super busy time, and I'm not like traveling home or anything that would give me lots of airplane time to sit and read because it is perfect for that. However, first week of January, I am going to be away. I'm going to be up on a bit of a ski vacation. I'll still be doing my day job, but I will not be at my night job, and I will have lots of evenings to relax and read some more in front of a crackling fire on a snowy mountain. Doesn't that sound perfect? So if I don't get things like Lionheart read this month, then good chances are I will end up getting these read next month instead. Okay, so that is my November wrap-up and my December to be read. If you have any comments on any of the books that I have been reading or I'm about to read, then please let me know. I would love to know your opinions on them. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.